I'm sitting on this stone bench in a sea of people. I should get up and get a drink of water, Gatorade, Energizer, something to quench my thirst in this heat. But if I do, I'll lose my seat and have to stand, like most people at this party. I had to make a decision. Sit here, on this hard stone bench, or stand up, lose my seat, and go through the rest of the party on my feet. I decided to sit. The host of the party, our main boss, was grilling barbecue over an open fire. People were lining up to get theirs. The barbecue was as hot as it gets in mid-August in the deep South. I was supposed to be here. He was demanding it. He knew something was bothering me and suggested it. Problems sometimes seem more solvable if you write them down. It will make you really think about it and evaluate your thoughts on it. He even provided me with a notepad and pen so I could write everything down. It was one of the few times I can say he seemed human to me. Usually he just brushed me and my problems aside. He was definitely not a nice person. So here I sit here on my sore ass, writing down what has been running through my head over and over again since that fateful day. My name is Kurt Bennett. I'm 30 years old, married 5 years, to Robin. No kids yet, but we were planning on starting a family this year. I went to Notre Dame, and when I graduated, I got a great job in sales for Siemens, a healthcare company. As baby boomers flooded the market with their medical needs, my future is so bright that I have to wear shades. I'm on top of the world. Some people say I've lived a charmed life. I say I haven't made the bad decisions that other people have made. I've known a few of those people, and my brother is one of them. I don't understand how two brothers, twins, raised in the same house, by the same parents at the same time, can be so different. I think it proves that nature overrides nurture. During our formative years, my mom and dad would say, "Brush your teeth after every meal." I brushed. He didn't. Today I have great teeth and he has a mouth full of fillings. "The stove is hot, don't touch it." I didn't touch it, he did, and ended up in the hospital for burn treatment. "Look both ways before crossing the road." Although he was never hit by a car, I watched from the sidelines more than once. I think you get the point. This continued throughout our teenage years and into adulthood. I don't know how many times I heard from my parents, "Keith, when are you going to learn your lesson?" That question was the crux of my story. You see, I never learned my lesson because I never experienced anything. I never tried smoking, and my brother got sick and threw up. He was 14 when he got drunk for the first time, stealing beer from the neighborhood store when they brought the stuff there. He threw up again and got in trouble for stealing too. He went to jail for 2 months. I can't tell you how many cars he wrecked, either due to speeding or drunk driving or both. I think you get the point. I never did anything wrong, so I never learned my lessons. That all changed one fateful day. I was driving around my current clients, making sure deliveries were correct and on time. I was also finding out what new plans they had in the works, so I could anticipate needs and prepare proposals in advance. I was visiting a senior center in an upscale area of town when I saw my wife's car. I knew it was my wife's car because it had an "I Love Dolphins" bumper sticker. It was parked in the driveway of a huge house, must have been 6,000 square feet, all brick, on the shore of the lake. I wished I had a house like that, and the money for it. She worked 15 minutes away at a sports and exercise apparel store. She must have been making deliveries. I slowed down to say hi and parked at the curb about 1/4 block up the street. I was about to get out of the car when the front door opened. About time, I thought to myself. She started to walk out the door, then turned around and gave the man at the door a huge kiss, tongue and all. He grabbed her ass with one hand and her breasts with the other, answering the kiss. I guess he was the one delivering the goods. I sat stunned. Thankfully, she pulled away from his driveway and headed the other way down the block. I turned around and slowly drove past the house. I wrote down the address and drove out of the neighborhood. I walked back into town and stopped at a bar. I needed some time to think. I ordered nachos and asked the waitress, "What's a good drink to drown my sorrow in?" Again, I was a nice guy. I rarely drank. She replied, "I guess they prefer whiskey here for that." "Well, I've never gotten drunk before, but today seems like the perfect day for it." "Give me one of those," said I. "I'll give you 7 and 7, that should be enough. I don't think if you've never gotten drunk before, you should only drink whiskey." After the second serving, quite tasty by the way, I felt that was it. I gave the waitress my brother's phone number and told her to call him when I was passed out from alcohol. I also gave her $50 for the drinks and a tip. For putting out the best and being so nice. I don't remember anything else except waking up from throwing up in the bathroom. I also threw up all over my shirt. After trying for the 100th time to push my stomach out of my mouth in dry spurts, I laid down on the cool tile and passed out again. When I woke up again, my head was splitting. I was lying on the bed nearly naked. It wasn't my bed. My brother walked in a couple minutes later, hearing me moan in pain. "Well, good brother isn't so good after all," he said. "Shh, not so loud," said I. "So you want to tell me why you, of all people, sat in a bar and got drunk?" he asked softly. "Robin is cheating on me." "What, the perfect marriage of the perfect couple has a problem?" he said. You could hear the sarcasm in his tone. I guess I deserved it. I hadn't been kind to my brother with all the problems he'd brought upon himself as a child. "So how does it feel to have problems and wake up hungover and vomiting?" he asked. "I'll never do that again. I've learned my lesson." Last night, Keith called Robin and told her I wasn't feeling well and was going to stay the night at their place. I'm really glad he did that. I wasn't ready to face her yet. "So, tell me what happened," he said. So I told him the events of the day that led to me getting drunk at the bar. I pulled out my wallet to get the address and look up the bastard's name. Opening the wallet, I noticed that all my money was gone. I gave the waitress $50. I should have had at least $100 left. "Holy shit, someone stole money out of my wallet," I said a little too loudly, and my head started splitting again. "The bar wasn't even close to full when I got there. The waitress had a huge smile on her face when I picked you up," said Keith. "Bitch! Another lesson? You can't trust women," said I. I found the address in my wallet and looked up the owner of the house. I recognized the name, and then I found him. There was a picture online. It was him. I would recognize his face anywhere. He was the head of one of the big tool and die companies in the area. I didn't know how, but he paid for what he did. Now that I knew everything I needed to know, I told my brother I was going to screw around for a couple more hours and then head home. It was Saturday, and Robin would be at work most of the day, probably making a special delivery. When I got home, I started packing up my wife's things. Packing isn't quite right. I actually put everything in 55-gallon trash bags. As I was putting the last of my stuff on the porch of our house, her car pulled up to the driveway. She got out of the car and headed for the front door with a puzzled look on her face. "What is this? I didn't realize we had so much trash," she asked. "This is just some of it. The main trash is right in front of me," said I. She looked puzzled again. "What, are you feeling okay?" "Not since yesterday when I saw what I thought was my loving, faithful wife kissing and groping another man. Here are all your clothes and jewelry. Take them with you when you leave." A shocked expression appeared on her face, and her hand came up to cover her mouth. "No, Kurt, please don't do that. Just take this shit and leave. I'm sure Dan Sherwood will let you sleep with him in his house again." I said it forcefully. Her eyes widened. She took on a stern expression and resorted to her usual way of dealing with people when they pissed her off. She began to put me down. "He's twice as good as you, and he'll never be like that. You're so boring and predictable. Mr. Smarty Two-Shoes, you can't be surprised that I want to be with a real man." That was it. "Get out of here, slut!" I screamed at the top of my voice. I hoped the neighbors heard. I didn't care. I wasn't going to be Mr. Good Two-Shoes anymore. I walked inside and slammed the door shut. She tried to open the door, but I locked it. In fact, her key didn't work because I changed the lock and alarm code. I may be boring and predictable, but I'm not stupid. I think I saw her crying while loading the car. Good thing she had a crossover for all those trash bags. After she left, I locked up the house and left in my car. I wanted to see if she went to his house. I got there, but her car wasn't in the driveway. Maybe it was parked in the garage. I went to the door and rang the doorbell. A woman in her 30s opened the door. Behind her, a girl about 6 or 7 years old ran to the door. So this asshole is married, I thought to myself. "Hello, can I help you?" she asked. "Yes, can I talk to your husband?" "Sure. Dan, there's someone here to see you," she announced. "Would you like to come in?" she asked. "No, I don't want to impose. It'll only take a couple minutes. I backed away from the door a couple steps. Dan stepped out and closed the door. Can I help you? Just then, I punched him right in the face. Blood immediately spurted out of his nose. He bent over, and then I kicked him in the crotch. He didn't feel twice as much as I did. He went down. I kicked him in the ribs, then another in the crotch. His arms were closed, so I really kicked him in the arms. I heard at least one finger break. I rang the doorbell, and when his wife opened the door again, I simply said, "Your husband cheated on you with my wife. I hope you have a nice day." I walked back to my car and pulled into the street. I only made it 3 blocks before I was pulled over. Being rich is advantageous. They probably have cops on every corner. Of course, I ended up in jail. I had to stay there until Monday, when the judge would hold a hearing. I called my brother. "Are you drunk again?" he asked, picking up the phone. "I haven't heard that much from you in the last 3 years." "I'm in jail, and on Monday can you bail me out after the hearing? I have the money. I can let you take it from my stash." Again, I'm not stupid. I took all the money out of the bank and hid it at home. Monday morning, after a day and a half in jail, I was looking forward to the hearing. The judge wasn't so easy on me. I guess the physical damage I had done to a man of high standing in society meant I would get what I deserved. Bail was set at $50,000. Wow, that's going to be a big blow to my stash. Keith had to go back to the house for the rest. He decided that $25,000 would be more than enough. I learned my lesson well. Don't resort to violence. When I got home, Robin was waiting for me in the driveway. "You asshole, you made me lose my job!" She yelled. "That's okay. I'm sure Dan will pay for your services." I calmly replied, "He's in the hospital and his wife told him to find another place when he gets out. You ruined his marriage and he has 2 small children." She shouted again. "No, you're the one who ruined his marriage. I just brought it to her attention," I said calmly again. "We need to discuss living arrangements," she said. "If you can pay the mortgage, you can live here," I said. "You can't do that. This is my house too," she hissed. "I'll call the police to make you let me in." "Your name isn't on the mortgage or the deed. Let them try to force me in. I'll sue the police department," objected I. "And where am I supposed to live?" she asked. "Where have you been living for the last 2 days?" I asked. "At my sister's, but her house is full of her own family," she replied. "What does she think of what you did?" asked I. "She doesn't know. I told her that we are having problems in our marriage," she said in a muffled voice. "That's an understatement. You had a good life. We had a good life. Why did you ruin it?" I asked. "I thought I wanted more," she admitted. "Well, now you can get more with him. He has money. Get him out of the hospital and go away with him, preferably far away," said I. "He's not going to marry me. He wants his wife and kids back," she replied. "So you're just a whore, unless he paid you. Then you're a whore," said I seriously. "It was just an affair, Kurt. Can't we forget about it?" she pleaded. "When hell shuts up!" screamed I. She rushed away. I went into the house, locked the door, and went straight to bed. The last 2 nights I still couldn't sleep. The next day I visited the hospital. Most of the medical staff knew me. I sold medical equipment to the hospital and periodically asked the staff how it worked. I acted like I was on another sales session. In the ICU, I spotted a patient in room 415 and asked about him. "What's wrong with him?" "He's been beaten badly, 3 ribs broken, his nose broken, his fingers broken, and his testicle ruptured," she said quietly. "Wow, I wouldn't want to be in his shoes," whispered I. "Yeah, and his wife was only here once, and she didn't seem too sympathetic," she said. "Ouch!" I wrinkled my nose. And then I made the rest of my rounds and walked out of the hospital with a smile on my face. I had never gotten into a fight before. Adrenaline and rage helped me get my revenge. I looked into a few more offices, but my heart didn't lie with this one. Why did my wife do this? We had a great life, a big house, nice cars, traveling, the Caribbean, Europe, and even Asia last year. This year, we were going to start a family. I'm really glad we didn't do it now. I wouldn't want the kids to go through a divorce. I went to the park and just sat there in deep thought. After probably an hour, I called Keith. "Hey, Keith, what's up?" "What's up?" he asked. Robin was there when I got home after picking up my car from the impound lot. We had a word or two, not very nice. "I'm sorry to hear that. Any chance you two can work it out?" he asked. "When hell freezes over," said I. "Well, I guess that answers that question, so why did you call?" he asked. "I called to see if you and Jenny would like to have dinner tonight, my treat." "I'll call her and get back to you," he said. Jenny was Keith's girlfriend. She might as well have been his wife. They'd been together longer than Robin and I had been together, and had lived together for the past 6 years. I don't know why he didn't make up his mind. It's obvious they love each other. I thought Robin and I loved each other too. I guess I was wrong. I guess she didn't love me as much as I loved her. Now we're facing divorce. Maybe Keith had the right idea. At least they could just walk away without all the legal crap. My phone rang. It was Keith. They were going out to dinner tonight. We stopped at the Applebee's at 6 o'clock. At dinner, I thanked them for putting up with me Friday night. Jenny replied, "It's no problem for me. I made Keith wash you." I liked Jenny. She had a great personality and a decent face and body. I don't know how Keith got so lucky. The next day, I hired a lawyer. He checked out the case and said the trial was set for 5 months. Wow, it seems the legal system is slow for the rich and regular people alike. Over the next few months, I had many more heated discussions with Robin. I contacted a divorce attorney, and it looks like I will be on the losing end in the divorce. She would get 1/2 of everything. Plus, I would likely have to pay alimony for at least 3 years or until she remarried. This was complete nonsense. The offended party here was me. I decided I would not pursue a divorce, let her file for one, which she did. I would fight it, just to drag it out as long as possible. Needless to say, I spent nights alone watching TV, movies, playing video games, and watching porn. I needed a release. My nighttime habits began to turn into morning habits and then into afternoon habits. Soon it was affecting my work. Sales started to drop, and then it started to slide downward. I was called into the office and had the riot act read to me. I corrected myself a little, but not fast enough. Soon they started taking my accounts away from me so that customers would get the service they deserved. I'm sure you can guess that I lost my job. You can't expect to keep anything in life if you neglect it. I've learned my lesson. Meanwhile, Robin was seeking a divorce. The first hearing was held about a week after I lost my job. It turned out to be useless. Without a job, all the financials were out of date. We rescheduled another hearing for 2 weeks later. I had to provide all new financials. That night, I went to a bar downtown. I would have a drink, but there was no way I was going to get drunk again. I didn't need this headache, literally and figuratively. As I sat there sipping my drink, a woman spoke to me. "I haven't seen you here before," she stated. "I've never been here before. I'm here for a divorce hearing and I need to drown my sorrow," I explained. "Do you want to tell me about it?" she asked. I told her my story. She said, "I think I have something that will help you." I looked at her perplexed. "How much money do you have?" she asked. Remembering the time I had been ripped off by a waitress, I was wary. "Why?" "I can make you happy, if only for an hour," she said. I looked at her again. I don't know what prostitutes are supposed to look like, but this was not what I expected. Playing dumb, I asked, "How?" "I have some coke. We can share it, and then I'll share my body with you. But it's going to cost you." I thought for a moment. I'd never tried drugs, and I'd certainly never used a prostitute. Then I thought, what the hell, this is better than going home. "Where are we going to go?" I asked. "There's a motel down the street that rents by the hour," she said. We left the bar, discussing payment on the way. The motel would cost me $150. At this point, I hoped it would be worth it. We started by snorting coke. What a rush. What a rush of energy. I felt like I was on top of the world again. I could do anything. And I don't know if it was the cocaine or something else, but I felt like I was in heaven. I hoped this wasn't the end. When we were done, they would definitely have to change the sheets. Hopefully they changed them before we started. I lay there exhausted, my chest heaving up and down, trying to come to my senses. She got up, washed her face, and got dressed. She was about to leave when I asked her, "Can we do it again sometime?" "Sure, honey, but next time it will be $200. I didn't realize we'd be here for 2 hours." "How do I find you?" I asked. I'm at the bar almost every night. You'll find me if you get there early enough, she replied. I smiled after lying like that for another 15 minutes. I thought about how my life had changed in just a few months. I was definitely no longer Mr. Nice Two Shoes. I went back to the bar, got in my car, and drove home. I was still feeling the residual effects of the cocaine, but not much at all. When I went to bed, I fell into a comatose state almost immediately. When I woke up the next morning, I was hungry. I couldn't remember the last time I had eaten a home-cooked meal. I made myself breakfast. Waffles, scrambled eggs, bacon sausage, and orange slices. I had to eat something healthy. I was full, fat, and happy. I looked down at myself. I was fat. For the past couple months, I had been eating fast food morning, noon, and evening. In between, I was constantly snacking. I must have gained 30, 40 pounds. I know I bought new pants 2 sizes bigger in the waist. I had to start jogging. I half-heartedly promised myself that I would start on Monday next week. Friday came, and I wanted more of that amazing sex. So I went to a bar. Yeah, that bar. She was there. I pulled $400 out of my stash. Now I had $10,000 in it. But I wasn't worried. I still had money left over for the $50,000 bail that the court was holding. When the trial was over and the attorney was paid along with the fine, I would have more money. I waved my hand at her. She smiled and headed toward me. I didn't even know her name. I just called her Babe, and she called me Honey. Hey, honey, how are you today? Great, babe. Are you free tonight? I asked. You know I'm not free, but I am. She nodded. You were great last time, but I was wondering, I've never had a threesome. Do you know another girl who might be willing? I can pay $350 for both of you, I asked, hopefully. I don't usually work with anyone, but there's a new girl working the room tonight. Maybe we can talk her into it, but I need $200. She informed me. She pointed her out to me, and the one seemed fine. Do you want me to come over here? I asked. Sure, honey. Let her know I'd be glad if she says yes, she said. I walked over to her and made light conversation. Pretty soon, I felt comfortable to broach the subject. She looked uncomfortable, but I told her I would pay her $150, and the other girl was also a professional, as I pointed out to Babe. She agreed, and we headed to my car. We got to the motel, and I got us a room and started by opening my wallet and handing each of them money. At that point, the new girl pulled out her badge and gun and said we were both under arrest. She called for backup, and we were taken to jail. Another weekend in jail. I learned another lesson: prostitutes are trouble. That weekend gave me a lot of time to sit and think and look at my life and body. Things were rapidly going downhill. I needed to do something about it. I promised myself to start running on Monday. As far as my life was concerned, while doing bad things was pretty exciting, I didn't like the consequences. I needed to get back to my old life as soon as possible, but how? I couldn't bring myself to make peace with Robin. I still had my pride living inside me. I wished I could find someone like Keith did. Jenny was a wonderful person and loyal as the day is long. On Monday, after the hearing, I made bail with a credit card. $5,000 was enough for me. I picked up my car from the impound lot again. I drove home, changed into gym clothes, and walked out the door to the beach. I decided the best way to work up a sweat and lose a few pounds would be to work out. I started slow, no faster than a turtle. Once I felt my muscles warm up, I started working out. I felt good that I was actually doing something to improve myself. I was running at probably at least 5 miles per hour. I was sweating, shedding pounds. I just knew it. True, I was panting and puffing a bit, and my heart was pounding in my ears, but I was running, reclaiming my body and my life. Everything was going to change. I would control my destiny from now on. I would live the life I wanted, doing what was best for me. To hell with the rest of the world. Then it happened. Now I know it was a heart attack. I collapsed on the sand. I woke up lying on the sand, still sweating, and no one came to help me. It's been months now, and I'm still sweating. I'm sitting on this stone bench, but I don't want to get up and lose my seat. Just wish it wasn't so darn hot. My wife and Keith would ask me, "Can we get through this?" I would tell her yes, if only to alleviate this oppressive heat.